You're listening to the Bluegrass Jamboree, playing the best in bluegrass, bluegrass gospel, and traditional country. TheBluegrassJamboree.com.
Hello, and welcome to another segment of Hear It Here, heard only on the BluegrassJamboree.com. I'm Brett Smeltzer, your host of Bluegrass Retrospect, which is normally heard every Friday evening, but today I am honored to be hosting Hear It Here as I welcome on the phone my featured artist and special guest, the members of Spillwater Drive, as we talk about their latest self-titled CD. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me today, and welcome to Hear It Here on the BluegrassJamboree.com.
Thanks for having us.
For the listeners who may be hearing of your band for the first time, would you all be kind enough to introduce yourselves, tell us where you're from, and what do you do as part of being involved with Spillwater Drive?
My name is Jake Stogdill. I am the guitarist all the way from the little town in the Ozarks known as Washburn, Missouri, and that's basically, if you had a map of the entire universe and put a dot right in the middle, that's where Washburn is.
Well, I'm Gary Cook, and I play bass in the band, and I live in Monette, Missouri.
I'm Adam Ash. I play banjo, and I live in Gateway, Arkansas.
I'm Sam Cobb, and I live in Rogers. I'm from Mountain View, Arkansas, but I play mandolin in the band.
Where did the name Spillwater Drive originate?
This is Jake. The name Spillwater Drive comes from, it's kind of more of a location. There's a state park not far from all of us called Roaring River State Park. Mm-hmm. There's a location there called Spillwater Junction. It's where all these rivers and kind of a spillway of a dam all converge at this big trout park. So that's kind of where we come up with the name Spillwater Drive. We always thought it had a nice ring to it and sounded kind of unique. And obviously, the most important thing, we Googled it and no one else was called that. So that kind of sealed the deal right there.
There you go. How long has the band been together?
This is Gary. We've been together maybe a little over 2 years now. We kind of got started in the late winter, early spring 2 years ago, so about 2 years.
What got you started into bluegrass music, or what even got you started into wanting to play music in general? And you can go one at a time.
This is Gary.
Oh, go ahead.
This is Gary. I'll start first. So I've been playing bluegrass music or singing bluegrass music basically since I could talk. I started singing at local hootenannies and stuff around here when I was 3 or 4 years old, and I didn't have an instrument. And so a lot of times when the music would come on, like on the radio, or they'd be playing music around the house because my grandpa was in a bluegrass band, I would play the door facing. That was my instrument of choice until I was old enough, about 9, to get a bass, and I had to use a stepladder in order to play it. But that's how I kind of got started in it. But my grandpa was a huge influence, played bluegrass music all across the Midwest. So that's how I kind of got started. And I think, according to my grandmother, my first bluegrass festival I went to, I was 1 month old.
Wow. Do you remember, well, would your grandmother
remember that one specifically?
Did somebody refresh your memory of who was playing at that festival when you were that old?
It was a regional show down in Bee Branch, Arkansas. So I know a lot of the groups at that time down in there. I know like Parker Mountain Bluegrass probably was there, Bill Jones and the Bluegrass Travelers, some groups like that.
Okay.
This is Jake. Probably a number of influences on me. Too many to list, probably. I guess the main one's obviously my dad. He played banjo, and he's the one that got me started. He played in the band. My story's kind of similar to Gary's in that sense. And aside from that, I'd say just kind of the local culture. Like, we're kind of very fortunate to be in an area where bluegrass is a big thing, and some of the best players in the country come out of here, you know. So we have a lot of easy access to really great musicians and festivals and things like that. It's just kind of something a lot of people around here do, you know.
Gotcha.
This is Adam. I would see a lot of hee-haw reruns and stuff. My family watched that when I was a kid, and my dad always liked bluegrass, and he especially liked the banjo. But I grew up more involved in church music and stuff. I was around that a lot. My family was always really active, singing in our church and stuff. And my mom plays the piano. So I grew up around that, and my grandpa was in a gospel group and played guitar. When I got around 10 or 12 years old or so, I started getting more interested in bluegrass specifically, and then I had a guy from church that actually gave me a banjo and got me started, so it just went from there.
What style would you say was your influence as far as Scruggs, Bella Fleck?
Yeah, Earl Scruggs,
Gotcha.
primarily early on. Earl Scruggs, and I really like Doug Dillard as well.
Oh, my, yeah.
We watched the Andy Griffith Show all the time, so I watched the Darlin' Boys on there a lot. So those two were big influences on me. And when I got older, then I really got into guys like Jim Mills, other guys like that.
This is Sam. I guess I really didn't have a passion for bluegrass until I was about 8 or 11, between 8 and 11. When I was younger, my parents kind of got me started. I was taking piano, classical piano, and I played a little bit of violin. And then I didn't really get into bluegrass until a lot later when I moved to Mountain View, and I kind of grew up there. So over in Mountain View, it's kind of a big music culture, and there's a lot of bluegrass over there and people who pick. And just sitting around the jam sessions and stuff, I kind of ended up picking up the mandolin and jamming a lot. So that kind of became my primary instrument. And my dad was a main influence. He played a lot of music, and I just kind of took it from there. But I don't remember when my first bluegrass festival was, but I had a lot of good times picking around the square up there, Mountain View, playing bluegrass with a lot of folks, and it kind of just grew on me from there.
How did you all come together? How did you find out about each other?
This is Sam.
Mm-hmm.
I met Jake at a hair salon.
Okay.
That's a true story.
That's fine.
We were trying to get a jam session started, and we ended up going to the hair salon, and I ended up meeting Jake there, and kind of it blossomed.
All right.
Totally regular, normal way, though.
Okay.
Funny.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
All right.
This is Jake again. I met Sam there just really a few years ago, and we actually, when we met, we had realized we had met years and years prior at this big lumberjack festival, you know, where they have like the log rolling and the tree climb and the chop and all that contest.
The one that I know of, my older brother used to go to one in Elkins, West Virginia.
Oh, yeah. No, this one's in Donovan, Missouri.
Oh, we were close.
Yeah.
Just a couple miles off.
Yeah, right. So Gary and I, after we got to talking at the hair salon there, we got to realizing that we had actually met each other years prior to that at a lumberjack festival. Like
you might start that over again, because that was Sam and you at the hair salon, not me.
So Sam and I, when we were at the hair salon there, getting our nails done and everything like that, when we were having that little picking party. No, that part's a joke, obviously, to the listeners out there. We realized that we had met each other years prior at a lumberjack festival, a place in Donovan, Missouri, called Timberfest, where they get up there and chop trees and climb poles and roll on logs and stuff like that. But as far as Gary and Adam goes, well, Gary, I can remember even as a young kid when my dad played in a local bluegrass band, and as Gary said, his grandpa did, and Gary played with him at the time. I remember seeing him way back when I was a youngster. And Adam and I kind of come up playing around the same time, and so we met each other really early on. And he just lived, as the crow flies, about, 7-8 miles from where I live.
Gotcha.
At the time. So yeah, we just kind of all grew up together in a sense.
Let's talk about the album. It's a self-titled album. How many songs on here are originals?
This is Gary. We have a total of 12 songs on the album, and 9 of the 12, the first 9 actually on the album, are originals.
Okay. Are they all written by the same member of the band or by each of you?
So several of the songs are written by Jake and his late father, and then Adam's got one that he co-wrote, and then there are 3 on there that I either wrote or co-wrote. One of them I co-wrote with my mother.
How would you describe your music for the listeners out there? Are you straightforward traditional bluegrass? Are you kind of contemporary?
This is Jake. I always kind of described it more straightforward, but a lot of people describe it as kind of contemporary in a sense. And I think really our material is more straightforward, but the way we approach some of the arrangements and things like that is kind of unique. So I don't know, I can defer to one of the other guys for their input. I hadn't really thought about that too much, but straightforward, kind of bordering on contemporary to a point.
I think the music has sort of a traditional sound, but the arrangements definitely have a little bit of a unique, more contemporary feel to them.
Okay.
And the songs may sound sort of familiar, like you've heard them before, but they've got a little bit of a newness about them as well.
Let's talk about the first track that we're going to listen to here in just a moment. This is entitled Hard Times. What inspired you to write this song?
Yeah, this is Jake. Me and my dad Boyd wrote that. We actually wrote it during the last recession, and it just kind of talks about hard times, the people falling on hard times, losing their jobs. There's a line about the IRS, the DNR, and the EPA in there that could draw a tear from a glass eye. It's real emotional. Just kind of typical hard times kind of message. And then we just play it really hard too. So I guess you could say that has something to do with it as well.
Okay. Well, I get quite a few requests for that during my broadcast, my Friday evening broadcast. So who's actually singing lead on this?
That would be me, Gary.
Okay. Let's go on ahead and air this first track, Hard Times, and this is once again from Spillwater Drive's self-titled CD, and it's heard right here on the BluegrassJamboree.com.
I walked down the street, I met a beggar man standing on the corner with a tin cup in his hand. He said, I lost my job 2 years ago and I ain't found work yet, so I scrape to make a living, sometimes beg for what I get. My children, they are hungry, my good woman, she is ill. I've spent up all our savings and I can't pay the bills. No, I ain't got a nickel, no, I ain't got a dime. Hard times, living in hard times. Calloused hands, weathered brow, and the clothes that he did wear all gave testimony to the troubles he did bear. He turned to look away as his eyes swelled up with tears, and I realized it was an old friend that I hadn't seen in years. He didn't recognize me and it made me feel so bad. I put $10 in his cup, all the money that I had. He said, God bless you, mister, and thank you for the dime. Hard times, living in hard times. Parking lot, there was something really odd. A crowd was gathered around a man shouting from his pickup bed, so I thought I'd walk on over just to hear what he said. Said the IRS, the DNR, and the EPA have closed us up, they've shut us down, we're going home today. No, I ain't got a nickel, no, I ain't got a dime. Hard times, living in hard times.
And we're back. Once again, you're listening to Hear It Here, heard only on the BluegrassJamboree.com. I'm Brett Smeltzer with my featured artist and special guest, all four members of the band Spillwater Drive, and we're talking about their self-titled CD. With the pandemic that's out there, some of these venues are starting to shed a little light on having social distancing and all the other protocols in order. Sam Jam is one of them that just started back up. Where are you folks playing right now for the remainder of the year, or have you guys completely shut down with your schedules?
Gary's kind of the keeper of the schedule, so he'd really be the best one to answer this one.
The pandemic obviously sort of played a pretty big role in sort of putting a stop or kibosh to a lot of our shows this year. We had a lot of stuff lined up, and we weren't able to do most of them. But we have been able to play a few shows last month or so, and we've got a couple more lined up this month in October. We've got one on Halloween in Adona, Arkansas at the festival down there. We're going to be playing down there with a bunch of other great groups. And then we've got a show in Seneca, Missouri in November 7th, I believe. And then one more show in December in Oklahoma, down in Bernice, Oklahoma. So we've got 3 shows for sure lined up still left in 2020. And we've had, like I said, several of those that had to be canceled. But we're thankful and grateful every time we get a chance to get out and play, because we definitely do miss interacting with the folks and getting to meet them. And there's nothing like live music and live bluegrass shows.
For the folks that's in your listening area, can they go to your website and find out the remaining schedule, or where could they go to get all that information?
They can go to spillwaterdrive.com to get that, or we also have a Facebook page where they can get all of those updates. And we're already have several shows that, since they were postponed for 2020, we're going to be playing in 2021, and those dates will be up soon if they're not already there.
Well, let's talk about the Old Ragged Bible. This is the only gospel song you have on the album?
Yes, this is the only gospel tune we've got on the album.
Okay, and this too is an original, correct?
Yes, this was one written by myself and my mother.
Okay. Anything you want to share in regards to what inspired you and your mom to come up with this gospel number?
Well, she's really the brilliance behind this song.
Okay.
She's written several songs, and we kind of worked together on a few of them. And this is one that she wrote several years ago that we sort of had put away for a while. And then whenever the group got together, we were kind of talking about some original stuff that we wanted to do. This was one of the first ones that we pulled out to do, and people really seemed to like it and really seemed to appreciate it, and so we thought it was important to put it on the album.
It's a great tune. I'm a huge fan of gospel bluegrass. That was one of the things that actually turned me on when I was first listening to bluegrass. I had someone that told me to take a listen to Doyle Lawson and Quicksilver if you want to hear some harmonies. From that point on, I was just hooked on the gospel bluegrass. I enjoy bluegrass. I don't know, there's something about gospel bluegrass that it can make references to the Bible, and it seems to me it's more understandable because it's kind of like down to earth with the stories. Gospel bluegrass hits home for me.
Yeah, definitely. I think it has a way to touch people's hearts. And you put in that harmony like you were referencing, and there's just nothing better in my opinion.
This is Adam. We pretty much stick to 3 parts, and we will change around a little bit. Most of the time, I sing the tenor part. On the songs Gary sings lead on, I'll sing tenor, and Jake usually sings the baritone. Occasionally, especially on some of Jake's songs, he's got a little bit lower voice, and we'll actually stack 2 parts above. Gary will sing tenor to him, and I'll sing like a high baritone. Usually on the songs that Sam sings, Gary will sing tenor and Jake will sing baritone, and I will drop out and just focus on playing.
Okay. Good job, guys. Some great stuff from this album. Let's go ahead and play The Old Ragged Bible. And again, it is from the self-titled brand new CD from Spillwater Drive, and it's heard right here on thebluegrassjamboree.com.
He sits on a dirty sidewalk, no place to call his home. In his hand he holds an old ragged Bible, the only friend he's ever known. He speaks to those walking by him of a wonderful day yet to be. No more to be cold or hungry when the face of the Savior I'll see. I have no shoes upon my feet, nothing to call my own. But there's coming a day that will be so sweet when the Savior calls me home. He shivers in the cold night air, no coat upon his back. Temptations lie all around him, but strength he does not lack. For there is a longing so deep inside that nothing can compare. For he knows that he'll soon be going to be so sweet when the Savior calls me home. On a darkened corner of a lonely street, an old man was found. Beside him was an old ragged Bible lying there on the ground. A note had fell from the pages that he had wrote. There's coming a day that will be so sweet when the Savior calls me home. I have no shoes upon my feet, nothing to call my own. But there's coming a day that will be so sweet when the Savior calls me home. Yes, there's coming a day that will be so sweet when the Savior calls me home.
And again, we're back. You are listening to Hear It Here, heard only on the BluegrassJamboree.com. And before we go into our last track that we're going to try to squeeze in, where can the folks find your CD? How can they go about getting the self-titled CD?
Our CD is available basically on just about any digital platform that you'd want to get it, whether that be Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes. I think we're on Amazon Music Unlimited, all sorts of places like that. And of course, we'll have it available for you at any live shows that we have. And then we also have some members of the group that are members of the Banjo Bend General Store, and they work there. And so I'll throw that over to Jake, and he can tell you a little bit about how you might be able to get a copy of the CD from there.
We work at the Banjo Bend General Store, me and Adam, and so they're for sale on the website there. That address is just store.banjobendclark.com. In addition to our CD being there, there's thousands of other products. We're just a big bluegrass store. Check it out.
Alrighty. Let's talk about Destination Nowhere Bound. This, I take it, is another original?
Yes, this is Gary. This is another one that I wrote. I actually wrote it while sitting in a traffic jam. I was sitting in a traffic jam, and I didn't have any pencil or paper. All I had was the little voice memo recorder on my iPhone, and it just sort of, for whatever reason, came to me. And so I just kept recording it verse by verse, and thankfully, probably, the traffic jam came to an end, or there'd been a lot more verses to the song.
Wow. Wow. It's amazing where you can spark ideas. That's great. Before we air this, Adam, Gary, Jake, and Sam, I will say this as I always say to all my featured artists and special guests. I wish you much success with this CD. I wish you and your families to continue to stay safe and well, and I wish you safe travels on the remainder of your festival dates. And when you folks are ready to release another CD, be sure to look us up on the BluegrassJamboree.com. With that said, we are going to play Destination Nowhere Bound from Spillwater Drive from their self-titled CD, and I invite you to check out their website, their online stores, and digital downloads, and get yourself a copy. And it's heard right here on the BluegrassJamboree.com. Thanks a lot, guys. I certainly do appreciate your time.
We appreciate you, and we appreciate the station.
Goodbye, boy, I don't love you. Flame I had, fuse grown cold. Take your stuff and pack a suitcase and move on somewhere down the road. So I took what I could carry and headed out on State Line Drive. I took a ride outside Paducah. Now I'm headed south on 105, 13 miles into this journey, another highway, another town, Oh, I don't know where I'm going. I'm destination nowhere bound. West of Memphis, and I stopped for gas around Little Rum. With every mile, I'm a little further, but I don't know where to stop. I saw the sunrise around Amarillo, and it brought the light of day. With every mile, I'm further from her, but I can't outrun the pain. 13 hours into this journey, another highway, another town. Oh, I don't know where I'm going. I'm destination nowhere bound. Driving, maybe someday I'll settle down. When she said goodbye, my journey started. Destination nowhere bound. 13 days into this journey, another highway, another town. Oh, I don't know where I'm going. I'm destination nowhere bound. 13 weeks into this journey, another highway, another town. Oh, I don't know where I'm going. I'm destination nowhere bound. I'm destination nowhere bound.
Well, folks, that wraps up another segment of Hear It Here, heard only on the BluegrassJamboree.com. Tune in and join us again for more interviews from some of your favorite bluegrass artists. I'm Brett Smeltzer, and until next time, take care, be safe, and God bless. So long, everyone.